Hello guys, this is Damon here from Edureka, and I welcome you all to this amazing session on DevOps Engineer roles and responsibilities. So before we move any further, let us have a quick look at the agenda for today's session. So as you can see on the screen, these are the topics that we will be covering, starting with who exactly is a DevOps engineer. After that, we will discuss what are the various roles and responsibilities that a DevOps engineer has. Moving on, we will discuss what are the technical skills required for a DevOps engineer, and finally, we will discuss the DevOps engineer salary. I hope I'm clear with the agenda. Just a reminder, in case you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do subscribe and also hit the bell icon so that you never miss any update from Edureka. And also, if you're someone who's looking for a course in DevOps, then you can find the link for the course in the description box below. So without any further ado, let us begin with our first topic. So before that, let's have a quick look at what exactly is DevOps. So DevOps is a software development strategy that bridges the gaps between the developers and the IT staff. With DevOps, organization can release small features and incorporate the feedback which they receive very quickly. If we talk about the benefits of DevOps, the first benefit is that it has fewer software failures compared to the previous traditional software development method, such as waterfall and the agile. And also the lead time between the fixes of issue is significantly reduced in DevOps. Now DevOps overcomes all the limitation of the traditional waterfall model. DevOps process involves a lot of development, testing and deployment technologies for developing automated CI/CD pipeline. So this was a quick definition of DevOps. Now if you talk about what are the tools that are used in DevOps, so the first tool that is used in the DevOps is source code management, or you can even say version control system, and these tools are Git and GitHub. There's one more tool called Jenkins here, which is an automation server and which has a built-in plugin for developing these CI/CD pipelines. After that, we have Selenium for automation, testing, and Docker, which is nothing but a software containerization platform. You must have also heard about the tool called Kubernetes, which is basically the container orchestration platform. And then we have Puppet, Chef, and Ansible, which are basically used for configuration management and deployment. Then finally, there is a tool called Nagios, which is used for the purpose of continuous monitoring. So these were some of the tools that are used frequently in DevOps. So now coming back to a previous question, who exactly is a DevOps engineer? So a DevOps engineer is somebody who understands the software development lifecycle and has the outright understanding of various automation tools for developing the CI/CD pipelines. Now, DevOps engineer works with the developers and the IT staff to oversee the code releases. So they are either the developers who get interested in the deployment and network operation, or system admins who have passion for scripting and coding and move into the development side where they can improve the planning of tests and deployment. So this was an overview of who exactly is a DevOps engineer. So now let us discuss the main part of this session, which is DevOps engineer roles and responsibilities in a day-to-day task or daily activities. So if you think about this question, what are the daily activities, day-to-day activities of a DevOps engineer? So this question is, as per my opinion, it is pretty much a weekly task because it depends what your experience is as a DevOps engineer. And it also depends upon the organization that you're working for. If you talk about the organization, it depends on since how long your company has started adopting to the DevOps practices. So let me list down a few general points here that a DevOps engineer, no matter what his background is and what his experience is, these are some of the points that normally the majority of the DevOps professional execute, or they do it on a daily basis. So the first point here is making sure that the pipeline is running smoothly. So this is one of the most important tasks of a DevOps engineer, and he needs to make sure that the CI/CD pipeline is intact, and fixing any issue or failure with it is the topmost priority for a DevOps person. They often need to spend time on troubleshooting, analyzing, and providing fixes to issues. So the second point here is interaction with other teams. So coordination and collaboration is the key for DevOps to be successful, and hence a daily integration with the DevOps and the QA team, program management, IT, and other stakeholders is always required. The next point here is working on automation backlog. Automation is the soul of DevOps, since a DevOps engineer needs to plan it out, and he spends a lot of time behind the keyboard working on automating stuff on a daily basis. Then the next point here is infrastructure management. DevOps engineers are also responsible for maintaining and managing the infrastructure required for the CI/CD pipeline and making sure that it's up and being executed optimally. So this is also a part of their daily schedule. So say for example working on a backup and making sure that the system are always highly available and a new platform is set up and so on. So the next point here is dealing with legacy stuff. So not everyone is lucky to work on the latest and the newest thing, and DevOps engineers are no exception. Hence, they also need to spend time on legacy, that is in terms of supporting or migrating it to the latest version. And the next point here is the exploration. So DevOps leverage a lot from the various tools which are available, and there are many options as open source. So the team needs to regularly check on this to make sure that the adoption are as required, and this is something which also requires some efforts, not daily, but you can say that such activities should be done on a regular basis. The next point here is removing bottlenecks. DevOps' primary purpose is to identify the bottlenecks or the manual handshakes and work with everyone involved, that is the development, QA and other stakeholders who removes them, so that the team spend a good amount of time in finding such things and build the automation backlog. The next point here is documentation. Even though Agile and DevOps stress less on documentation, it is still an important part of the job on which a DevOps engineer works daily, be it server information weekly, charted or Scrum or Kanban board, or simple steps to configure or modify the infrastructure. So you need to spend a good amount of time in coming up with these artifacts. So the next point here is training and self-development. So self-learning and training are very useful in getting a better understanding, and many organizations encourages their employees to take the time out and do some of these, and the same holds true for DevOps folks as well. So it's very important to learn something new every day. And last but not least, we have the continuous improvement as a practice. So it is up to the DevOps folks to build awareness on the potential of CI/CD and DevOps practices and build a culture of leveraging it for doing things better. That is reducing the rework and increasing the productivity and also optimizing the use of existing resources. So you must go and talk to people to build DevOps and continuous improvement culture. These were some of the activities you can say that DevOps engineer does very frequently or daily. So again, now I will give you a real-time scenario. Previously, we have discussed some general scenarios, and now I'm going to talk about some real scenarios of the day-to-day activities of a DevOps engineer. So the first and foremost that you do when you go to the office or when you reach your workplace is the daily stand-up meeting. So what happened in this meeting is normally your team that are involved in the DevOps, like the development, QA and the operation, all of those teams, they know they meet together to discuss what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. So say for example, if you are a part of the team and you have a team lead, so your team lead will assign you any specific task for that particular day, and he will also take the feedback of your work at the end of the day. So this is the first and foremost that you must do in the morning when you go to your workplace, that is check your emails and the Jira tickets. So again, Jira tickets are nothing but they tell you what are your tasks for the day or the entire week. This is how you use Jira ticket and your email for knowing what needs to be done. After that, you check the notification for monitoring system. As discussed earlier, there's one tool called 𝐒𝐞𝐽, which is used for continuous monitoring purposes. So what happened is after you have deployed your application on the production server, you make use of a tool such as 𝐒𝐽 for continuous monitoring, its health and its security. So if there are any notification related to that, it is your responsibility as a DevOps engineer to check those notifications and fix it. If there are any issues, you have to fix it and provide a solution to that issue. Next, you have to ensure that there is no critical alert unattended. So this point is pretty much an extension of the previous point. If there are any critical notification or messages related to your DevOps teams or anything related to your application, it is your responsibility to make sure that it is not unattended. Maybe you shall attend it or you shall try and fix that issue. Or if you cannot do that, then you shall ask the required person who has the proper skill set for fixing the problems. So you must at least talk to him and get the issue solved as early as possible. Next, as a DevOps engineer, you must provide the help and support to the developers. So developers are responsible for developing the code. So developers develop the code for the requirement of the application. Now you as a DevOps engineer, it is your responsibility to talk to them to make sure that they can write the code elegantly and efficiently, and after that, it is your responsibility to make sure that the developed code is moved to the further stages, that are testing, integration, deployment, and so on. Next, you have to provide support to the production servers. So once the application is deployed on the production server, it is your responsibility to track the running of the application, whether it is running smoothly or not, if there are any errors. So normally what happens is before deploying on the production server, the application is developed in the continuous development phase. It might be possible that the environment in which the application was developed was different than the environment that we have on the production. So because of this mismatch in the environment on the production and development, so the application might not run smoothly. Hence, it is your responsibility to check that the environment is correct and all the dependencies issues are solved as far as the application is concerned. The next point here is the automation of the admin repetitive task. As a DevOps engineer, you might come across many activities that are repetitive and you have to execute them almost daily. Since you know one scripting language, so it is your responsibility to automate those tasks by writing scripts for that particular task. So if you write a script for that task, so those tasks will be executed efficiently and you as a DevOps engineer will always be relaxed just because you have automated those things and they are getting executed successfully. So automation, as discussed earlier, is a key component of DevOps. Next, you have to create a Jenkins job for deployment. Now, Jenkins is a tool that is used in the continuous integration phase of DevOps. So as a DevOps engineer, you have to execute jobs, you have to integrate the code, and then you prepare a CI/CD pipeline. So basically, the CI/CD pipeline is the heart of DevOps. So it is one of the most important concepts as a DevOps engineer to make sure that you create jobs and build a CI/CD pipeline using Jenkins. Next, you have to support existing infrastructure and create new servers. So as discussed earlier, you are responsible for maintaining the infrastructure. So it is your responsibility to check the overall infrastructure to figure out whether it is sufficient or if it is not sufficient. You as a DevOps engineer need to talk to the required member or the authorities to make sure that you add additional infrastructure or you expand it, and if the need arises, you can also add new servers to your infrastructure and so on. Next, you have to check whether the code has been successfully deployed on the production servers. Deployment is a mechanism through which application, modules, updates, and patches are delivered from the developers to the users. The method used by the developers to build, test, and deploy new codes will impact on how fast the product can respond to changes in customer preferences or requirements and the quality of each change. And finally, you have to check for the proper approval. Now, before the code releases, so say you have to develop an application with 20 features. I am just giving you an example for your understanding. So what will happen is you will not directly develop an application with 20 features. So first, you will develop an application, say for example with 5 features. And you will release that application, and then based on that performance of that application, with those 5 features, you gather the feedback of that application. So whether that application is running well, whether users are liking it or not, how the features are, and so on. So you gather those feedback, and if there are any major changes, you try to incorporate those changes in that application. And then you again release that application with few more features. So say for example in the first version there were 5 features, now you have 10 features, plus the feedback of the first 5 features as well. So this is the second iteration of the second version of the application. So normally this is how your application is launched or deployed on the production server, version by version, or you can say when the iteration is processing. So then you again gather the feedback of the application based on 10 features, and then you try to incorporate those changes in the application and you release it again for the next time. Say for example 15 features. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm trying to say here. Multiple versions with different features and the feedbacks. So this is one of the most important things that increase the quality of the software in DevOps. So these were some of the points, or you can say the activities that a DevOps engineer does daily. Now let us understand the technical skills of a DevOps engineer. These are some of the technical skills required to become a DevOps engineer. The first skill to achieve is to have a thorough understanding of Linux fundamentals. As most DevOps projects are Linux based, it is essential to know the Linux environment and the relevant scripting language like Ruby, Perl, etc. Now, if you have a technical background but not the specific skills in Linux, web development in Java, you can simply take our courses to learn the skills to prepare for the DevOps career. Now, moving on to the next technical skill that is really important is to have a knowledge of the DevOps automation tools. There are several practices that are involved in the DevOps implement. Each of the practices utilize different tools. Continuous management uses tools like Puppet, Chef, Ansible, whereas continuous integration uses tools like Jenkins, Bamboo, etc. Where continuous testing, on the other hand, uses tests complete Dockers, Kubernetes, etc. And finally, continuous monitoring uses Nagios, Splunk, Prometheus, etc. The next technical skill which is required to build a career in DevOps is a thorough understanding of a continuous integration and continuous deployment process. Now, this is a really important for DevOps engineer because these two practicals are extremely important. Finally, DevOps engineer must learn infrastructure as code. This is really important because these models helps you solve the deployment problems. So these are some of the technical skills required to build a career in DevOps. Moving on, let's discuss a DevOps engineer salary. Now, as I said earlier, that is the United States of America and India. Firstly, we will discuss in the United States of America. As you can see on the screen, the average DevOps engineer salary is about $133,000 per annum, whereas an entry-level DevOps engineer with less than 1 year of experience, that is a fresher, can expect an average or total compensation of $92,000. A mid-career DevOps engineer with about 1 to 3 years of experience earn a compensation of $122,000 per annum. A mid-career DevOps engineer with about 4 to 6 years of experience on an average earn a compensation of $134,000 per annum, whereas an experienced DevOps engineer with about 7 to 9 years of experience earns an average total compensation of $144,000 per annum. Moving on, let's discuss the DevOps engineer salaries in India. As you can see, the average DevOps engineers earn about 10 lakhs per annum, and an entry-level DevOps engineer, that is a fresher with less than 1 year of experience, can expect on an average a total compensation of 3,66,000 rupees per annum, and a DevOps engineer with about 1 to 4 years of experience earn an average compensation of 6.5 lakhs per annum. Now, for a mid-career DevOps engineer, he can expect a total compensation of 14 lakhs per annum, which is based on 509 salaries. Finally, an experienced DevOps engineer with about 15 to 19 years of experience earn a total compensation of 31 lakhs per annum. So by this, we know that a DevOps engineer is in high regard and is also in high demand. So with this, we have come to the end of this session here on DevOps engineer roles and responsibility based on daily activities. I hope you guys have enjoyed this session. If you have any queries related to this session, then you can write your queries in the comment box below. So thank you guys for being with us and all the best.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!